Hello, this is RV Vagabond Jerry, and you may know I'm always on the lookout for unusual museums. And I think I found one here in New Orleans. It's the Southern Food and Beverage Museum, and they also have included the Museum of the American Cocktail. So what do you say we go in and see what they have here? It's a really big building here. They've got some old signs from restaurants. Here's one of the grills taken out of service from Copeland's restaurant. A lot of information here about that restaurant. Must be really important in the history of New Orleans. But it's not just about Louisiana. They have displays here from various, I think all of the southern states. There's a big Piggly Wiggly. Somebody's been doing a lot of shopping. You've probably heard about the Scoville unit, which is used to measure the hotness of peppers. This is the machine they use to determine the hotness of peppers. And this is from 1986, not that long ago. And believe it or not, it was created for Popeye's restaurant. So they've got a lot of things here about Popeye's. And the funny thing to me about Popeye's is that I was reading about Popeye's one time, and they told me that the name Popeye's had nothing to do with the Popeye the Sailor Man cartoons. But look what they have here. Somehow they got away without any copyright infringement. Here is Tennessee. Things familiar with Tennessee. Very interesting collection of bottles. And by the way, when all these beer companies and spirit companies had to deal with prohibition, they came out with all sorts of other products to be able to stay in business. There's a Jack Daniel's brand cola. This whole wall is all about the history of cocktails. They don't let you get too close to it, so you won't knock something over, which would not be good on this concrete floor. Here's a bar from the old days. But he doesn't look too busy. And this section is dedicated to absinthe. Here's an explanation of what it is and where it came from, which became very popular in New Orleans. And this is interesting. Oop, kind of hard to read that. Here's a display about Alabama. I like their prices in Alabama. And one for Oklahoma, Missouri. And this looks like a recreation of a place called the Shed from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Here's some Southern Pecan brand drink items, which I have not heard of. And the Shed Barbecue and Blues Joint is still there. I always thought it strange that they consider North Carolina to be in the South. You may have heard of Bojangles, and I didn't know this. Krispy Kreme started in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And you may have heard of Cheerwine. It's not wine, but it's full of good cheer. This tells about it. also from North Carolina. And Mount Olive is in North Carolina, where they started the pickle company. And in this room they give cooking classes. And has a lot of old appliances on display here. Here's a couple of the early refrigerators. You see the compressors on top. This one is a GE refrigerator. They have a section on South Carolina and Georgia. Coca-Cola, of course, based in Atlanta. Cokes, peaches, and peanuts. And I've missed all of the Pickle Fests in Arkansas. What a shame. And I bet you didn't know that Arkansas is the spinach capital of the world. Virginia, Maryland, and West Virginia. Now that's starting to get a little too north for me. McCormick Spices started out in Baltimore and oystering. And of course, Texas. You've probably had Bluebell ice cream. They're still in business. It started in Brenham, Texas. And Whataburger is even bigger than McDonald's in Texas. And one of my favorite sodas, Big Red, and Dr. Pepper, both from Waco, Texas. Several original Texas beers. Of those, I think only Lone Star and Shiner are still being made. When I come back to Texas, I always get me a case or two of Lone Star, which is one of my favorites because it's really hard to find anywhere outside of Texas. And then they have a whole room here for Louisiana. Looks like some restaurant updated their equipment or went out of business maybe and donated it all to the museum here. And they have a couple display cases here about products from Louisiana, like New Orleans Nectar Soda, French bread, Folgers Coffee is from New Orleans, and of course New Orleans is famous for their hot sauces, especially Tabasco. And maybe Louisiana is most famous for their Creole cooking. They don't call it Southern Comfort for nothing. Well, this has been an interesting museum. I've never seen a food and beverage museum like this before. So stop by when you're in New Orleans. Maybe. Good day, folks.